right, next one up we have Carl up on stage. Thank you so much for joining us. And you'll be shining light on the AI from a nature lens. So please take it away.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll be talking about AI for nature, power, possibilities, and perils. I think we just heard a bit on that. AI for a nature lens, we can think of nature's needs in different boxes. We need more data, we need better predictions, and we need better decisions. We can look at the scope of AI superpowers that we have, and they can roughly line up with these things. I'm going to use computer vision or supervised learning broadly in the first one, talking about the emerging things in ML and forecasting, and then looking at the decisions and the potential for another area of AI and reinforcement learning. So I'm going to tell you three things. First, that data collection and prediction are a critical part of what we're doing here, but it's not sufficient. Second, that we must realize ecological management is a complex, a legislated, and technocratic context. We need to capture that if we're going to make good decisions. And third, that those technical decision tools are themselves embedded in a social context. We've already heard allusions to geographies of conflict. We're going to see that here as well. So our existing data is insufficient in just about any dimension you want. This is our global biodiversity facility. You've already seen this. And really, you can dive into the data and discover the thing it tells you most about is the one species that's not in there, the humans. I have a student who's gone in to pull out everything from populations to wealth data, locations of cities and roads, holidays and wars, our colonial past, and even our racist housing policies from the FDR administration in Los Angeles. The redlining just jumps at you in the GBIF maps. We need new data, less biased data. We need data where the hotspots are, not where just the cell phones are. AI is poised to transform this landscape, and it's already happening. You've heard about these successes today. AI in computer vision and tools that can have camera traps around the globe, seeing biodiversity as it unfolds and vanishes before our eyes. Audio traps, everything from insects to illegal logging. eDNA, really exploring species that do not get caught by camera traps, who do not make noise, but see from those text strings, from that DNA itself, what's on the ground, and seeing it from drones, seeing it from space with Earth observations. We've had a huge explosion of technology. It's moving fast. It's heavily invested in already, and it's being very successful. There is so much more to do here, and many of you are experts. Yes, I just put many of your affiliations up on that slide, so you can talk to the people in this room to learn about the things that are being done there. Are there untapped AI opportunities? Can we go beyond gathering more data? In my second point, I have told you ecological management is complex, legislative, and technocratic. What do I mean by that? This is Glen Canyon Dam. We just heard about water being precious. This is the most contentious water in the world, or at least in the US. You can see there the humpback chub, an endangered species. We know they're endangered. We know they live there, but they need these little sandbars to find habitat. And when you have a dam that shows regular flows, those sandbars erode like you see in that top image. You need to do pulsed releases that rebuild sandbars, but whoa, they rebuild the habitat for the trout, also likes it there. Rainbow trout was introduced for the fishermen, and it competes for recreational purposes, but it competes with the chub and makes life worse for the chub. Also, those big releases come from the bottom of the dam where the water is near freezing and the chub hate cold water. So getting these things right is complicated. This unfolds on a landscape where that water is already precious for irrigation, for drinking water, for hydropower, for cooling our ML, ChatGPT methods, for unfolding in a changing climate. Well, we don't know how much water, how much rainfall there'll be next year, and how variable those numbers will be. And you're doing that in areas that are heavily contested for their recreational use, for their public and private use, and the tribal communities that live there, for instance, that oppose the killing of any fish, including the invasive fish that have been introduced there on religious grounds. So it's a complex problem. These are tough decisions, and this is all over any ecological management. We can't just drown these people in more data. They are facing difficult decisions. They have powerful infrastructure. There are lots of legislative tools in our power already, from the Endangered Species Act down on to mandates to manage fisheries, manage forests, you're seeing here with oak wilt death. There are still hard decisions in bringing all of that together. This is hard. We must do more than remove the blindfold to play this chess game. We need decisions. Do we have an AI superpower for this? Oh, we do. We have a chess-playing AI. We can think in ahead. This is reinforcement learning applications. We've seen playing games, beating humans in everything from driving cars to robots to chess. Can we bring this to nature? Reinforcement learning has an agent making decisions on an environment, and they learn by making mistakes, adjusting what they're doing, and getting a reward. This is how we've actually done management for a long time as well. We call it adaptive management in ecology. It's reinforcement learning. We try, we adapt, but we need to do it at a bigger scale. We are already doing some actual machine learning RL in nature, but often at too low a level, I think, with not enough imagination. That's a robot dealing with an invasive species, that submarine. It uses RL to navigate. There's a group in Harvard teaching using a tool for RL to have rangers navigate their paths when they're doing sweeps or traps or poaching. They're treating the humans kind of like they're the robot moving around the ground. Can we get more strategic, above tactical models? Can we have new policy in this messy, complicated, many-dimension optimization space? This is an example in economics, and I think the economics problems look more like the ecology. Many complex moving parts you're trying to optimize over without ruining any one of them. We've been trying to do this within a fisheries context. Our traditional fisheries rules, we do what the economists do, write simple models, take simple rules, take them into the real world, hope they work. We have a concept of maximum sustainable yield. We say, oh, maybe if you just do 80% of that, it's good enough. It turns out it's often not good enough. We've collapsed a lot of fish stocks. RL can do better in this context. But it's more than that. Does RL work? Are there dangers in doing this? RL does what it tries to optimize, just what you tell it to optimize. Here it wants to do a racing game, and it teaches this race boat, but the race boat's going the wrong way. It learns to get points because it gets little points when you capture these little green fuel dots. You lose points going the wrong way, you lose points crashing into things. But it finds a way to get the reward in the way that you don't want. And this is not what we want for conservation. Conservation is in a social context. We have made this mistake before. This is work from political ecology going back into the 1930s. We do conservation in geographies of conflict. We say this is a protected area and you can't go here. It's the perfect tool for a military junta. We heard this morning about Myanmar, about the moving in of palm oil there, about the countries can use, a dictator can use that to displace, in this case, the Karen civilians, out of the jungles because now it's legitimate. Those are protected areas and they shouldn't have people in them. It's the perfect way to consolidate your regime. We have seen this happen again and again. There are stories in Sri Lanka, in Guatemala. I won't walk through each of them. That AI is stepping increasingly into a space, not only of informing policy, but policing it, identifying illegal activity. Illegal according to whom and who benefits and who bears the costs. We are questions that are not just about what is ethical, but questions about legitimacy and accountability. To be able to address these questions, we need the expertise in political science, in political economy, to be part of this room, not just the expertise in nature and climate and computer science to do that. We need to think about the agencies with which we do that. I've highlighted, for instance, governance within open source communities. I think 2I2C and Source Cooperative are interesting models for kind of democratizing access to that data and to compute. So I'll stop there and take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have a question in the back, right? Let me get to go.
Thank you. To your original premise on the biodiversity data sets are lacking, but then also the camera traps and bioacoustics are pretty good, actually. Like, are they good enough, actually, and we need to just install a bunch more of them, and the problem is we haven't installed enough of them, or do we actually need different things?
Yeah, great question. Yes and yes, right? We need these things. They're not good enough, but they're also not going to be the whole solution. And I speak to managers, just came from a conference in Giron in Montreal, and they say, you've given me these maps, but I can't act on these maps. This is not what my policies look like. So I think we need to start from talking to the decision makers, not just start from the perspective of we can improve the data, and isn't it obvious that good decisions will come from good data? No, it's not obvious.
All right, yeah. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Paul.